Hi, this is Scott from City Claim Services. I'm your public adjuster today. Welcome to the channel. One of the things that a public adjuster should be doing if he's representing you is making sure that your contractor understands what the insurance company is paying for, so that they don't go off script and do things that they thought the insurance company was paying for. And that doesn't mean contractors can't understand that stuff on their own. But in this particular case, the undisputed amount, which is the building settlement, hasn't been released yet because the carrier adjuster, the person that works for the insurance company, is on vacation. So I'm going to walk my customer's contractor through and show them what the scope of work is so that they can get started on it. We'll be back at the house. All right, it's raining, so I'm not going to do a walk and talk here. So I'm at a fire in Delaware, and I've been there for inspections, first for the adjuster. Well, first I signed the job, and I walked it and documented everything. The next morning, I went and met with the adjuster. That's visit number 2. After that, a couple days later, I had to meet with an engineer to do combustible testing. So that's my 3rd visit. And then my next visit was with somebody to do asbestos testing. That's the 4th visit. And I had to point out where the asbestos was. With the combustible testing, that's to prove that there was fire damage inside the house. That's something that the carrier wanted. And that can be very tricky on a fire where it's not severe. And that's something that, you know, having a professional to handle it is pretty helpful, not to toot my horn. And it, you know, you would wipe your fingers and not find it. So I walked around with the hygienist engineer, if you will, and made sure that we got positive samples by finding the places where I was going to get positive results. And I actually came in between, I'm forgetting a visit, to study up on that to make sure that I didn't miss where he needed to do his samples. And then there was another visit after that to meet, a structural engineer and a fire investigator. And then after that, this fire I've had on my plate for about 2 weeks. And the next thing I had to do was come and meet with the contents adjuster. And the following day, I want to say, I met with an HVAC inspector to prove what kind of damage there was to the heating and air conditioning system. And also, I met with a second fire investigator. So if you don't feel like you can handle that on your own, that's why you would want a public adjuster. And it's not rocket science, but it's a skill set. And I have 11 years in this industry. No, I'm sorry, 12. It's a second career for me. I'm not, 30 years old, but I've been doing it for a while, and, having experience really helps. So we're going to bring you in the house, and what I have to do is walk through, like I said, with the project manager for my customer's contractor, and make sure they understand what the scope of the work is. But like I said before, we don't have it in writing yet. So the contractor is going to take care of getting contents out of the house, which we call colloquially a pack out. And that's so that it's out of the way, it can get cleaned and stored in a safe place. And then when the reconstruction's done, they bring it back into the house. And then they can do a structural cleaning or contain damage where it has to be like real demolition and then reconstruction. So we'll be right back. A little bit of walking and talking. All right, so the contractor in question is National Restoration. I used to work for them, and the owner of the company, John Maroney, was my mentor. So he taught me most everything I know in this industry. Franchising opportunities are available. So at this house, somebody was smoking, and we had a drought up until yesterday. And what happened was, I don't know if the cigarette landed on the slab here or if it was in a pot or something, but it smoldered all night. At 10 o'clock was the last smoke, and 5 in the morning the next day the house was on fire. So this stuff happens. I get these once every year or two, and it's a covered loss. Mistakes are covered. All right, we'll be back. Okay, so in here, this is adjacent to the porch. This is the dividing line between the front elevation against the porch, and then it juts out. Then this is the remaining front elevation. So this stud wall burned, and the subfloor, the sole plate, sole, S-O-L-E, the sole plate, the bottom of these 2x4 wall, it burned, and underneath it there's faced plywood, and it burned. There's nothing really truly supporting this wall now, so this is going to have to come out. And as it pertains to the electrician, you have an outlet on this wall, and then on the other side in the living room that are going to require new home runs. There's an outlet, it should be on the porch for more functionality, but for whatever reason they put it on the where you'd have to reach through the foliage to kind of get to it. Okay. There's a home run for that. It was like a foot from the heat. So that's going to have to get replaced. Okay. Then, what do you see? Cable. They're easy to forget on estimates because they're not hard to do, but they're a thing. And so there's a cable box on this side, which actually, if you're in the basement, the jacketing, which I'll show in a little bit, is completely gone. So all you see is the spun aluminum inside of it. So this has to be addressed. And then there's a television in the living room right here that also has the same problem. So those are things. So you have 3 home runs, a ground, probably a GFI outlet out there, and then 2 regular, which will have to go tamper resistant. In here, there'll be a minor code upgrade. Code upgrades are things that are covered if you have the coverage. Not everyone does, to bring it up to modern standards. It's only paid as incurred, which means you have to do the work. And the other thing is, you have to pull permits. If there's no permit inspections, there's really no code upgrades. So there's a threshold there. It's not just given to you willy-nilly. All right, so this has to come out, and because of the subfloor being burned underneath, the floor has to go. Okay. Now there's a column here. The joists run front to back, and then there's a beam, which we'll see when we go downstairs. Right about here, I want to say, that's sort of the dividing line between the back of the house and the front. The fire was stuck, heat rises, so the fire was stuck inside that joist pocket, and it ran towards the back of the house. So when we pull up this flooring, we have to see it's in the estimate. I don't want that to happen until they release the undisputed amount. Again, the carrier's initial building settlement. I want to be present for the demolition because I have a theory that we're going to find that where the seams in the subfloor, we're going to see it leaching through the seams and pushing in. So I think it's going to be a little worse than it looks at first blush. Sorry. No, that's all right. I'm going to hit pause. Get a couple questions off camera. Now I want to keep it for you, the viewer. So before all this demolition was done, there were samples taken here to test for asbestos, because there was a period in time where asbestos was in the spackle, which to me is completely insane. But, they used to sell cigarettes in hospitals after World War II. So things were different, and I can't help that. This is called push. And this is an immediate indicator that what somebody might think is minor is actually not minor at all. And when I leave here today, I'm going to smell like fire. And it's been 2 weeks. The smell, is not as bad as it was, but it's still absolutely there. And we're going to bring you through the house. There's a pack out already in progress. I'm not going to film the people. They're just trying to make a living. But National Restoration, they're doing the pack out. And to reiterate, a pack out is where you take salvageable contents, which can be cleaned, and you take them and you bring them off site, you clean them, you ozone them to help get the smell out. You put them in a chamber inside the warehouse that's specifically designed for ozone treatment. They hit it a couple times. They take everything, put it in new clean boxes, and they store it until the customer's ready to get their stuff back. Now in this room was on fire. Is there a lot of salvageable contents? No. That lamp, but not the shade. That lamp, but not the shade. The furniture's MDF, medium density fiberboard, which means it really isn't sealed. If this was made of just normal wood, it might have been salvageable, but given proximity, it's non-salvageable. So it's just the heirloom items and those little shelves that are up on the wall. Those, I have to look at them. I'll wait till they get packed out to determine whether they're real wood or MDF. I think they probably are real wood, but there's minimal pack out in here except for the drapes were taken, and inside here the clothes, the dresses, blouses, shoes, those were all taken for cleaning. So in the other rooms there's going to be a lot more stuff taken out, so we'll bring you back. All right, so we're going to follow the smoke. It didn't test positive in here, but it certainly smells. This is I'm following the joist pocket to the back. So mostly in here, the food, anything plastic, the toiletries, those will ultimately end up being on a non-salvage list. So those will not get packed out. They'll get disposed of and then replaced. That sticker kind of helps explain it. Now in this back bedroom, we also had a problem where the soot didn't, it smells like fire badly in here, but the soot wasn't coming out on the test samples. So this is something that's still, I'm not even going to release this video till this claim is settled, but this is something that's still in question. And so all this furniture, once they acknowledge there's damage and they're going to pay for this is clean in here because it's a smell fire in here. There's not actually a lot of soot on it. The mattress and the box spring and the pillows will get replaced. That's why they're here. But the sheets and such, they'll get laundered and brought back. These IKEA chairs, we will ask to have those non-salvaged, but until they're acknowledging coverage in here, they're not going to get thrown away and replaced. This desk, this will get cleaned. The lampshade will probably get replaced, but the lamp itself will get cleaned. That's kind of how it works. And then what I have concern about is in here, there's a little bit of it looks like glue. It could just be the caulk. I don't know how hot it got in here. We tried getting a good sample to show that there was some smoke, and it just wasn't, coming out. But this pocket got hot, and the subflooring, the face plywood, started to have lips, like it was like delaminating. So I still have very, strong concerns about this, including it pushing up against the back wall. And now it's not that these are the only nail pops in the house, but there sure seem to be a lot of them right here. So to be determined. This is what a pack out looks like. They number the boxes, they mark what's in them, they take them out, they clean them, and then when they come back in new boxes, clean and not smelling. If something doesn't clean up, it gets replaced. The area rugs in here were originally a question mark. The company that does that put non-salvage stickers, so I'm going to put those on my non-salvageable list. The dining room here, mostly salvageable, so it's a little bit of a different thing. It tested positive for smoke, but we'll probably get those plants, but the majority of it will clean up. The bathroom will get clean, sealed paint. The toiletries will get replaced. That's how it goes. Kitchen, we had to tear up the floors. We'll have to replace those, replace the trim, clean, seal paint, replace the little flood cut This is what a flood cut looks like. You do that to get air up in the cavity so you prevent growth from occurring. The cabinets will all get cleaned. The contents will, the dishes, glasses, skillets, they'll all get cleaned. The food will all get replaced. In the same chamber, if you will, that was actually on fire. The fire occurred over here. Past that second I-beam. This is the main beam. It's spliced right here that runs between the front and back of the house. So that's the left elevation. Back in there is where the fire occurred. We have carpet tile down here. This will have to get replaced because you run the risk of it holding odor. The carpet going up the stairs likewise. Now this chair lift, the owner is, retired. This will be detached, cleaned, and reset. The appliances down here, they're wet cleanable, so they are cleanable. They're going to be cleaned on site after the construction happens. The, I want to call them consumables, but we're not talking about welding. All of this, the dish detergent and starch and all this stuff, this will all end up getting replaced. The paint can probably just be wiped down. We'll see. I got to check the list. The cover for the ironing board should be replaced, but the ironing board is wet cleanable. Wet cleanable is something you'll hear me say a lot. That's kind of how it works in a mild fire, if a fire can be mild. The HVAC system has to get cleaned. The circuits feeding it appear to have not been damaged. So the electrician will have to restore power. And what the company is going to have to do that's doing the work here, they're going to have to clean the duct system. They're going to have to separate the duct system from the HVAC unit. And then the HVAC contractor is going to have to come out. This is old enough to have R22, which I believe is a Freon-based product. They're like 2 generations past that as of the end of this year. It's November 2024 right now. So they're going to have to evacuate all of the refrigerant from the line, store it, cut out the air handler, which looks like a little radiator core. I'm talking like it's a car. They'll take it outside and clean it, hose it out. Then they're going to have to disconnect the blower and then hose down or clean out, wet clean the interior of this HVAC system, clean the burners, and then they'll put everything back together. They'll restore the air handler and ultimately recharge the system, and it will restore the heater and the air conditioning system to use. It did take in smoke, but not nearly as much as we would have thought. The filter did its job and actually caught it. Look at this. Let me turn the light on this here. Look at that. And I thought for sure that this thing was going to be shot, but in this case it wasn't. However, the customer does have the option of taking that allowance that they have and using it towards a brand new system. The inspector that I met with, he said that there's no real need to do that unless they just want to go with a high efficiency unit. I think, wait, actually, no, I beg your pardon. I think this might be, I think this is a 90, not an 8. Yeah, it is. It's a very early high efficiency unit. That's what the 90 means. If it's above 90 in efficiency, it's considered to be high efficiency. And instead of tapping through the chimney like the water heater does, it can go through CPVC because the heat goes into the house, not out the chimney, so it doesn't need metal pipes. All right, so our electrical problems are over here in the crawl. I'll be right back. We're in the crawl space. The fire burned from, that's, we're below and to the right, to the left, because left is this way, left is right and right is left because we're facing forward. The fire smoldered its way into the house, ignited, and then started spewing smoke all over the place. If you think you know what that is underneath the I-beam, put it in the comments. It's not something you're allowed to use anymore. That's your hint. So that's a big no-no. Now, these joists, you can't really see it in here. I'll try to, here, let me get you in here. The joist is the vertical thing. The sill plate is the horizontal thing. Now you can see that's coax in there that caught on fire. It has the copper core surrounded by the aluminum jacketing, ground wire, whatever. So it burned its way through the joist into the house. The sill plate, which sits atop the block, burned. It's completely shot. So to replace this, now here's your big hint why this is so complicated. See that? That's a J-bolt. So you can't just pluck everything out of here and replace it. We have to get what's called a dead man, which is that's framer slang. And this is something I have actually done on my own. You double these up, you run them across, and you use bottle jacks, and you have to jack them up to take the load off, and take the load off here so you can pluck them out. And some of this subflooring in here, you can see the seams is going to have to go because it isn't there anymore. It burned. And what you're looking at is the sill plate for that 2x4 partition wall, which tapers down to a 2x3 when it becomes an interior partition wall, because that's how things were done in the olden days. And so we have to make sure that we have materials to make the dead men support, an allowance for the jacks, labor hours, because doing it by commodity pricing, which means by the lineal foot or the square foot, will not cover this because it's a small area that's very bad. So we have to make sure that we have the appropriate amount of labor hours. Now here's another concern that I have. I didn't do a very good job of showing this up in the bedroom. See this? This is actually called rock lath, which it's a gypsum board with face paper. And I noticed in northern Delaware, where we are today, around Wilmington, they used to use this as sheathing instead of plywood. And to me, it's insane because drywall likes to suck in water, but it seemed like a good idea at the time. And from here up, there's aluminum siding. And my fear is that those pieces of rock lath are going to turn out to be screwed into the joist ends. And we're lifting it up and it's going to have nowhere to go. And then we're going to have to rip off the aluminum on the front elevation. So that's kind of how my mind operates. Not what's going to go right, but what can go wrong and how do we fix it. See here? I think there's a strong likelihood that I turn out to be correct. So that's what we have to worry about. I'm going to go off camera for a second and then I'll bring you back. So this is, I think that stuff, I forget, it's not Romex. I think it's like NM something. It's 15 amp, white is 15 amp, yellow is 20 amp. It goes through the block to the outside outlet. Given that this was a whopping, we'll say 8 inches, being generous, from the fire, I don't want it there anymore. And I don't think the carrier adjuster does either. This is coaxial cable for the television in the master bedroom, which is over my head. This is no doubt about it has to go. All right, let's keep moving. Okay, so this here, that turn is where this is the front of the living room, or dog legs. So this is the dividing line, literally, between the master bedroom and the living room. There's nothing underneath that sill plate. This debris on the floor was the subfloor. It went up in smoke, kind of, sort of. So this has to be addressed. Now look at the discrepancy between the visible damage in this joist pocket and the alligatoring and the one immediately adjacent to it. It's like a tale of two cities. Not that I've read that book, I haven't. Me no read, me work. Now this to me appears to be telephone line that dates back to 1958 when this house was built. I think it goes into the living room because it's on this joist pocket. Now this smoke, oh, here's the home run. We have to, wait. Yeah, this, what I'm doing is really stupid. but it's not 110 line. I think this is phone. So there's probably a phone jack inside the living room that has to be addressed. So phone and cable, plus 2 home runs for one circuit in the living room, 1 circuit in the master bedroom, 110 outlet. 2 coaxial, yeah, there's the 2 coaxial lines, and then 1 phone line, 2 phone lines. So those have to be addressed, plus the outside, this was retrofitted. It's supposed to be stapled. The codes have a lot of rules, and this violates every one of them. Don't do that. The ducts all have to be cleaned. I know I'm repeating myself. Over here, this asbestos tile, no, ceiling acoustical tile. I've never had it test positive, and I don't think it tested positive here. I haven't seen the report yet. Get the reports. That has to be removed because we have to clean all the joists that aren't being ripped out, clean the subfloor, and then you encapsulate. It's a type of, it looks like paint, but what it does is it's designed to lock any residual odor down. Then we're gonna have to seal the block. We're gonna have to treat in here for either hot thermal fog or ozone and hydroxyl. We'll probably not use ozone in here because I think there's cats living here and they're probably not going to leave. So you can't have ozone around living things. It also causes, the engineer that tested for smoke, he explained to me that ozone actually causes things to deteriorate and you should never use it. He despises ozone, and he was a sharp guy, so I'm taking what he said into consideration for future use. All right, so look at that. I'm approximately 16 feet from the fire. No, 10. And it just goes, this joist, this long one's 20 feet to the overlap. All right, we'll be back. All right, so we're back of the center line of the house, that big I-beam. And look at the condition of the subfloor in this joist pocket. It is still a problem. Sorry for all the grunting. I'm old, people, and I'm overweight. This rim joist insulation was exposed to heat, smoke, and odor. It should be replaced. You can see a J-bolt. I don't think the plumbing will have been compromised because, to be honest with you, we still have the water running and there hasn't been a problem. All right, this is asbestos tile. If you ever watch a Brady Bunch rerun, that's this. And this is the colors of my childhood here. I wasn't born in the 50s. I'm not a boomer, but I grew up in a 50s era neighborhood, and this was the original color in my parents' old house, the closets. That was the color inside because no one ever bothered to paint them. So we had to replace the flood cut in here. This was wet. That's why we took it out during the mitigation. We had to board up this window, which was busted by the fire department. We still have glass to clean. We should probably get to that. That's a, bad look. These are returns, I found out. I misidentified them as supplies. That's why you call in an expert sometimes with HVAC. So this was soot from static electricity that stuck to this. So it was a fire. I wouldn't have wanted to be in here when this happened. This stuff, I believe I was told, was taken out already. Yeah, it's on. It's frozen. It was off for a day by accident, and it leaked on the floor. We have since dried all that out. Plus, there was fire department water from the left side over here. These tile are going to have to be taken out so that we can do structural cleaning, as to what I'm referring. Anything here, this will have to get cleaned. We put in the flood cut, and then we seal and paint everything after. I say we, I always say that. I'm not doing that work anymore. I'd be skinnier if I was. So this will have to come out. I wouldn't rip out the sleepers that are behind it. excuse me, and ask the customer whether they want to put this stuff back or not. It's kind of a outdated type of thing. I'd probably just not put it back, but it does lighten it up though. Let's see, is there anything else? Yeah, there's a lot of pack out in here, I think, but I have to look at the non-salvage list. I'll do that off camera. All right, so I have a little bit of time here. So this is the opposite side in the living room of that partition wall, and some of this flooring is going to have to get ripped up. You can see push in here. I have pictures, but this is all the stuff that's getting packed out. And then see these orange stickers. These are all non-salvage because of the fabric. It still smells like fire in here. The rug's non-salvage, these chairs. This is non-salvage, this is non-salvage. The stuff that's further away can be cleaned. If you're wondering what this is, and that blue thing that was down in the crawl, they're called air scrubbers. They circulate air but filter it, and they're used to keep particulate matter from blowing around the house. They're being kept here for when the deconstruction demo is demolition's going to happen. And it's hand demo. It's not like a big machine's going to come in and tear the house apart. But it helps keep the dust down. Then they'll set containment up. They'll probably set up a wall around here full of plastic with zip pulls, they call them, that extend and lock without drilling holes. You put plastic up and it'll keep the fallout from happening. I would probably set up containment somewhere around here, or maybe a little further back towards the door, and then set containment up somewhere in the hall so that when you're doing the demolition, you're not contaminating. Again, the framers are probably going to be cursing you because they got to schlep beams through the house. So, you know, that might not be practicable because the beams are you're going to have to bring a couple 20-footers through, and that's going to be extremely aggravating.
Yeah.
In fact, how is that going to happen? I don't know. Oh, another thing that has to happen that I didn't talk about, we're going to pull part of the ceiling in the master bedroom and possibly in here for the purpose of getting up and plucking all the insulation. This is an A-frame roof with I think a 412 pitch. There's a bunch of structural cleaning that has to happen, and then encapsulation, and we have to replace the insulation. And you can see the fire department did this. They were looking for what they call penetrations, where the fire gets up into spaces and it continues to burn and the fire escalates. So there wasn't fire caulking when this house was built. Nowadays, you have to really seal everything so that the fire doesn't pass through. But 60 years ago, that just wasn't a thing. And so fire pushed through a lot more than it does now. It's amazing, and it's part of what the codes are for, although the codes can be aggravating. All right, we'll be right back. All right, we're still doing the walkthrough with the camera shy project manager. Okay, so this here is a color that's going to be in vogue in 2025. It's pea green. Everyone's going to be doing it. This is face plywood. This was the original surface. Otherwise, they wouldn't have bothered painting it. Behind it is the gypsum plaster sheathing that sits in front of the stud wall. So this is going to be coming out. We're not going to be repainting it because it's going to be what they call an abandoned surface. An abandoned surface is a building material. It could be flooring, wall, siding, unfortunately sometimes shingles, where they put another layer over it. And it's unfortunate because it creates fitment issues if a claim happens. So this this is designed to replicate board and batten. You don't see this kind of stuff very often. It darn near looks like, it almost looks like soffit. It's aluminum. And I don't know if we'll be changing this up and going with something more contemporary, to be determined. But the adjuster, it's not in writing yet, but verbally he gave us the approval to take it all the way down to the corner. And then to replace a couple sheets of this face plywood, which was previously the finished surface because it's painted white or cream, whatever the heck it is. And then we will have the issue of insulation up there. So when we do open that up, we have to close it up so we don't have birds in the house, we don't have squirrels, and we don't have a bunch of cold air rushing in and, you know, causing problems with frozen pipes and such. Because it's November. We don't have the winter in this area that we had when I was a kid, but we still have winter. I did see snowflakes today. He acknowledged that 14-inch aluminum fascia stuff would have to go. And by the way, those are soot webs. They might have been a spider web that got soot on it. Sometimes they can be created from smoke. I think it was probably the former in this case because there's one without the soot on it. So this will have to get ripped off. This will have to get, when I say this, I meant the aluminum. This will have to get ripped off and replaced. They're gonna have to reframe that wall. We have to think about containment during that time, and we might have to put some temporary insulation while stuff's happening, or throw some foam up, something to keep the cold air from migrating and causing the bathroom to freeze. We need water on in this house for the pets. Another thing that was damaged, I checked on Google Earth just to make sure this wasn't busted up before the fire. It was not. So this stuff gets brittle from being in the sun. The fire department's, you know, coming in and doing their thing, and there's 10 different ways to have broken this. This is the rock lath sheathing that was here. And we also, you could say, well, what happened to that piece of siding? Interestingly enough, I don't think it's here, we had a little ingot of aluminum. Because the aluminum has a low melting point, we believe it was the siding melted down into a chunk. So, all right, we'll be back. All right, so that outlet right there has to get replaced, and the feed for it, it has that I think it's called NM line or something like that, that gets designed to be buried. That has to get replaced. Given that there's a crack over here, I don't know that this crack can be attributed to heat, but I also don't know that it cannot be. So that's a question I have. Now, my biggest concern, this is pargeted or stucco over the block foundation. You can see the outline of the 8-inch block, 8 by 8 by 16. Now, so the framing doesn't tie in here, it sits atop this. So we have aluminum siding, we have that gypsum, that rock lath, the sheets that are laying in a pile there. And then we have this aluminum siding sitting atop of it. And I think that this is gonna have to get opened up for us to do the framing. In fact, it might behoove us to open this up, and instead of doing all that dog and pony trying to drag a 20-foot board through the house, I think we should open it up and slide it in here and then drop it in place and then pin it. I think this is your answer. But then that means the siding has to get detached. Sorry for my hand shaking. And then this is painted, I think. Yeah, this was painted once. You can see a little bit of a sag in the paint. They probably painted it in the cold weather. This is gonna have to get painted. This foundation pargeting is gonna have to get painted. And then that downspout is gonna have to get detached and reset. The devil is in the details, and you need somebody that understands this. If your public adjuster shows up in a tracksuit, I suggest you hire somebody else. So it ties in right here. And the question is, now what? So these are conversations we're gonna have to have. My mentor, I'm gonna talk to him about it. He hired me 10 years ago. I have 12 years of industry experience, 25 in the building trades. But I want to, pick his head about it. Again, up in the attic, we have to think about insulation, demo smoke and odor control up in there, pulling out the insulation and replacing it. Now these screens, this came up on a previous walkthrough. There used to be tall shrubbery here before they went with I think that's lavender. My girlfriend's into that. This is previous damage. It's not related to the fire, unfortunately. So they're gonna have to self-finance that. All right, we're gonna go around the side and talk about the compressor. We'll be right back. All right, the project manager's a little less camera shy, but we're doing a little thought experiment here. This is paid out 20 feet, and by the hair of the chinny chin here, it will fit. So the stuff we talked about before, I don't think it's going to have to happen. We can drop it in from above. Barely. We're going to beat the heck out of this piece of drywall, but that can be addressed. So we'll come in through the rear slider. Barely. So there is a way. So two things. We've got to unboard up this window and replace the panes of glass, unless we want to swap it off for an aluminum Freudian slip, a vinyl window. That can be reglazed, and in a skinnier life, I used to do that kind of work. So right here, this is proof that is a high efficiency unit above and beyond. They call this a high-low, where the exhaust comes out and the air comes in, the fresh air. Although I don't know if it does both. It might just draw, the older thing might draw fresh air from inside the house, which wouldn't be fresh air, would it? So this line is going to have to get evacuated from the R22. This corrosion is concerning to me, and that's like an $850 to $1,000 job. HVAC techs, the companies, they make money to replace that line setup. There's slang for it, whatever. They'll have to evacuate this, and then to get the refrigerant out of the system, they put a vacuum pump in a tank. They'll store it, and then they'll put that exact refrigerant back in the system after it's done. So we have this same color running around the house, and there's something in the insurance industry that really gets confusing. And the question is, do I live in a matching state? I work on the East Coast, and Washington, D.C. and Florida. D.C. is not even a state, I realize. They're the matching states. I think Maine might be, but I don't work up there. I work in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, and I used to work in Virginia, but I don't work there because of the driving. So this is the back of the house. There's no direct damage, but we have to think about painting. Matching paint colors is a fallacy. It doesn't work. There's always a variance. The deck has no damage, and then we already saw the left elevation. So the big question is, where does the damage stop? Are there going to be any extras? That's not a problem for the public adjuster per se. That's something the contractor has to address. But being familiar with all these things, I'm sure there's rain on the lens. I apologize. These are the concerns that you have to have in your public adjuster, your contractor, and you, the insured, have to communicate. All right, so if you like this kind of content, like and subscribe for more. We'll have another episode when the work is done. Thank you very much.